Happy New Year from my pretty messy old studio. This is now my packing area for supply kits, for spun cotton supply kits, and it has not received a tidy since holiday time. So things are a little bit chaotic in here, but I am able to at least, there is a place kind of for everything as long as it can be on top of something else. And I know where everything is, and I can at least put together things for packing in here. But I'm in here because I just finished making what we're going to make together, which is this sweet little spotted pony pull cart. It's a gift for someone, so I'm going to package it up with some other things. And because I had trouble kind of choosing a topic for our first make along together, we're just going to kind of casually make this. I won't show every single part of the process, but I will show a lot of it, and hopefully enough that you can either be inspired yourself or just enjoy kind of seeing how this little pony came together. So we're just going to ease into 2025 with hopefully not too much pressure and just be playful. I'm just jumping in here because I did try to start more of a tutorial or make along type video last week. I filmed a few pieces of it and just was really struggling, feeling stiff and clunky and maybe not totally inspired. I started something that was just that I thought we could just do like a paper mache project together, and I was going to show you kind of some different options for a house, or just covering small boxes, or making kind of like a display. Maybe I can grab it. And I don't know, when I started this channel several years ago, I was doing a lot of paper mache at that time, and I always intended to do some paper mache projects with you, like little houses and things. And then kind of the interest was more in the spun cotton, and so I just kind of let the paper mache go. But it is, it's a new year, and so you kind of, I think we tend to give ourselves a little bit more freedom at the beginning of the year to change directions or do something a little different. At least I feel like that should be part of a new year, because it's just, I find New Year, and I think, it's an arbitrary timeline, really. I mean, it doesn't necessarily go along with anything that's going on in your life or projects that you have happening, except that a lot of us do a big holiday push, and so then it's a little bit of a time for reset. But I mean, it doesn't necessarily align with anything else in your life that is happening, so it's not necessarily fair for us to expect that we're just going to be filled with inspiration and energy to start something new and wonderful in the new year. I think it's important to know that some years we might feel that way, and some years we may just be a little slow and just need the quiet time. I've been listening to an audiobook called Wintering, which I think came out several years ago, and I don't even know the name of the author right now to tell you, but I'll put it in. And it's just, I mean, it's a good book. It's a nice listen. It just is encouraging you to kind of embrace I don't want to say that winter is a low point, but she does describe it as more of a low energy point. And sometimes it comes after a crisis, and sometimes it's just a natural thing where you need to reset. But I do get that. I oftentimes fantasize about living someplace that doesn't have winters, because I very, very much struggle in winter to just mentally to get through it. But I do think it would be odd to live someplace where there wasn't that season, because I definitely do think that there is something to, the season of summer where you can push and push, and there seems like there's kind of endless light and energy and ways to get things done. And then if you don't scale back a little bit in this darker, colder time, I don't know how you expect to then just run into that next growing season. So I do think that it makes sense, probably for a lot of reasons, not least of them biological, but that we have, animals all know that they're just going to sleep a lot in the winter. And I think a lot of us who have depression or seasonal affective disorder and things like that would have that instinct in winter too. Not that you can just totally give into it. But anyway, that's enough of a rambling, because I will just talk while I make. I decided I would not put the pressure on myself to do a full make along today, because I was getting too caught up in ideas of like, well, what is the right, most exciting, if we start with paper mache, does that mean that we have to do more paper mache? And is that not the right note to start things on? And I just got way too much, I was just putting too much pressure on that kind of meaning something. And it doesn't have to, we can just make without it meaning anything. And we can also make something that is just a one-off that you just get a little inspiration and you go with it. And what I'm working on right now is because I did kind of all the kits, and so I did more YouTube make-alongs than usual. You might have noticed that isn't my typical output for videos, is like one a week for several weeks. Usually it's more like one a month. So I did that, but then I had the supply kits available for making ornaments. Heirloom ornament kits is what I called them. And so to go with those, I did 4 additional video classes that were quite lengthy. One of them was like 4 hours maybe. Anyway, I did all of that content, and so I didn't have a lot of time I did, of course, in the making of those classes, end up with quite a few bird ornaments that I could give to people, but I just didn't even have the energy in the last few days before Christmas when I really stopped work. I just needed to get our own family things ready, and I didn't have the energy to put together the gifts for people that I wanted to remember. So I still have some people that I'm special friends that I'm wanting to remember, people who I can't remember everyone every year, but I try to kind of remember several people with a special handmade gift each year, or in a couple times a year I might do a little batch of gifts and things. So that's what I'm working on, is my after Christmas remembrances of some special people. And this is going to be a spotted pony on a cart, because I did one of these, I think it was towards the end of the summer, maybe it was in the summer, I can't remember. I did that little one based on a folk toy that someone shared. I follow an account that shares a lot of folk art, and she shared that little pull toy that I think the story was that she found this wooden pony on a cart at a dump or something, which is just crazy to me. Why I want to visit her dump. And I loved it, so I wanted to make a version of it. And that one is spun cotton. I'm trying a spun cotton one, but I'm also I have a little shape with paper clay, so I'll probably be just working on both of those a little bit. And what I will show, I guess, this is not a true make-along, and that I'm not going to stress a ton about getting every step shown to you, but a lot of you have asked about making little things on pull carts, and I make those out of cardboard, and there's lots of kind of variations on how to make a cart out of cardboard, but I'll show you at least one way, and you can kind of take that idea and go with it if you want to. I love making pull cart toys. You can just make something. I think the simplest, or one of the simplest, is to make like a very simple duck shape or a chicken hen shape. And I think that is a great way to start making toys, but you could make a little dog shape or something. And I just make a little, let's see if I don't know if I have, I don't think I have a little foil shape. Sometimes I just have a few that I've made up, but I mean, you just make one of your simplest forms for like a hen or a duck can be made a similar way. And then you don't have to make feet or anything, because you can just kind of attach it with a bit of wire to the cart. And I just think they're so whimsical and nostalgic. And so pull cart toys are definitely, I will do like a make along, a true one for those at some point. My other plans for this coming year will be a little cake class where we make tiny miniature cotton cakes and things, maybe a cake stand, I don't know, we'll see. And I thought maybe we'll see for Valentine's Day, I thought little vegetable ornaments are really fun, and you can do little tags that have puns like I'm rooting for you, or I don't know, I think you're radishing. That's a bad one, but I think radishes are really sweet, pretty little. They're kind of springy. They're kind of, they're heart shaped. So I think they're fun for Valentine's. You could do beets, of course, or a little carrot. But I just think that they're okay. They're maybe not, I mean, I don't know, you could always do a heart or a flower or something, but I think in February, a lot of us are ready to start thinking springy thoughts. So I think that a little Valentine ornament would be a fun make along to do. So I don't know if we'll try to do that towards the end of January if there's some interest in that. Okay, I'm gonna let this dry a little bit, and then I will put some paint on it. So this is just the form of a horse, like I always, or almost always start. This one is not a foil form. It doesn't really matter. It can be foil wrapped in tape, but this one is the way I've shown you sometimes, where I take cotton fiber and then I wrap thread around it and cover that. So that's what I did, and I just have legs that I kind of pushed up in there and secured with a little bit of glue, and then have just built cotton around the toothpick legs. I chose to do toothpicks because I do want it to look primitive, and I think that gives it more of a toy sort of look. It doesn't, instead of looking like an actual animal, it just looks more like a toy because the legs are just kind of undersized and folky. And then for the tail, and I haven't decided, I kind of wanted to try doing strings for the mane and the tail. I may do some twine or something to wrap around the base of this wire, and that way the tail can be posed, but you could also just glue string in there and not worry about the wire. But anyway, I'm not, like I said, this isn't a true tutorial. I'm just working and visiting a little bit because I'm just trying to be gentle. I push myself too hard sometimes, and I build up in my mind like the stakes of everything or the importance of everything, and really things are not that important. Nothing that I work at is that important. The most important thing in my day is that I keep the animals comfortable and happy, and that Nettie, my daughter, is happy and looked after, and that I've helped her enough with her school. And so I do need to remember that at the end of the day, what I'm doing here, although I do hear really wonderful things about how it might be helping people, it's just, it's just cotton. It's just a little bit of creative time, which is, I don't want to underplay how important that is, but it can't be, it can't take precedence over those other things or make those other things suffer, I guess, because of my stress about this. So I'll talk a little bit more about like the fact that I haven't been able to face comments in the last 2 months, and how I'm going to figure that out, because I'm struggling a bit with that. So anyway, I will let this dry, and I do have now my toaster oven hooked up again in here. So yay, I don't have to heat up my whole oven to dry things. And really, this, with the starch, if I let it sit a couple hours by my vent, it would be close to dry, and I will probably paint it while it's just a tiny bit damp. So I did clean up my studio quite a bit, and I found a better place for my glue gun, which I couldn't really use because I only had one outlet hooked up in here for the last year, and finally Dave got all of them hooked up, so now I can keep my glue gun instead of plugging it in back across my table and having the cord run over everything. I can just have it off to the side, and that makes it much less of a bother and nuisance, because I think that some of the make-alongs where I really struggled were the ones that were part of the kit. But I had one where literally, I mean, I knocked everything off my table several times because I just had glue gun strings stuck to everything, and I was quite annoyed. So I said I might get to all the comments. I was hopeful over Christmas, and Christmas break was not quite what I expected. My husband was very sick for a lot of it, and so instead of going and doing some things together as a family, I thought we might be going off to do something fun, going someplace to eat together, or I don't know what I thought would happen, but I thought I would somehow be riding in the car and be able to go through comments that way, and not take time away from, family gatherings or whatever, just be travel time. So that was kind of what I was imagining happening in my mind, and that didn't happen at all. We didn't go anywhere. I was not ever a passenger in the car, and he was sick a lot. And the other thing is that I just am not, I've not even read most of the comments this time. I get notifications of some of them, in my email, and I just don't have what I'm trying to explain is that right now, those comments, whether they're good or bad, are just kind of emotionally, they get me in this place where it's hard to calm down. So even if they're really nice ones, and most of them are, I think, although I don't know if that's true this time, but I think most of them are okay. And some of them are super, super nice. Most of them are encouraging, or they have been in the past. But even if that's the case, it makes me so, I just can't tell you, but in my chest, it just gets kind of all this energy, and I don't know where to go with it, and it's hard for me to calm down, and it's hard for me not to ruminate on all of them all day after I read them. So I'm just having a really hard time facing them. And what I'm trying to decide right now is what color I'm going to do for the undercoat on this, because I like to do a crackly finish on the paper clay ones, figurines that I make, and so the undercoat will kind of show through, and I'm trying to decide what I want that to be. So I will but that is why I haven't liked or replied to comments, because they're just kind of I don't want to say they're like a trigger, but they just get me worked up, and I'm not able to deal with that very well right now. So we'll have to see where I go, in the next few weeks or months, with whether that changes a little bit as I get back into the swing of things. It may just be because I did so much and I'm kind of coming off of being a little bit overworked. I'm not sure. But I do appreciate all of them, and I'm really sorry that I haven't gotten to them and recognized that you've left those. I do appreciate it so much, and I know that most of you are really meaning well with them. For whatever reason, I'm just my emotional capacity seems to be a little low ebb right now, so that is my explanation with that. I decided I'd go with just kind of a brown undercoat, and for the mane I just took some jute and took my craft glue and just took little pieces and smushed it in there. I'm just gonna see how secure that seems once it's dry. I think it's gonna stay, especially if I could take a little of my starch too and kind of stiffen that up a little bit and add a little bit of starch along here, but I think I'll just kind of dab a little bit more of the craft glue at the base to secure it. I suppose you could do super glue, but I think it would be hard to not, unless you are wearing gloves, to not get into it with your fingers. So I think the mane looks kind of cute. And then I'm just gonna coat it with this, and then I'll show you, because I know people ask. This is what I use as like a crackling, and I need to experiment and see if there are ways to do it with it. I have a giant bottle now, but I might as well get through it. But there's probably like a natural way to get a crackle finish. Sometimes I just paint something and kind of scuff it up and sand off some of the paint. But the crackle is kind of interesting when it works. You just do an undercoat, then you let that dry, then put this on, let it dry an hour, and then the crackle comes when you coat over it. And it just, and I'm trying to remember, because it's been a few months since I worked with it, but it seems like it works better if your paint is a little bit more liquid, and it sets up or the effect happens very quickly, so you can't like brush your top coat like over and over. You want to kind of brush it on and just leave it, because it happens kind of instantly. So anyway, I won't paint and talk. I'll just kind of show footage of that, and then I will kind of show more in detail how I make a cardboard cart. So I'm going to show you one way to make a cart and try to mention a couple other variations or options. I have this pressed fiberboard that is the back of a notebook. This is always a very nice material. It is very thick. It's thicker than like if you have a cracker box, and it's not, my camera's not focusing on the right thing. There's the kind of the thickness of it. It's thicker than if you have a cracker or cereal box or something like that. and it's not coated on either side, so you can paint both sides of it and have very good results with that. With the coated cardboard, you can sometimes struggle to get a nice, when I'm saying coated, I mean kind of like the glossy coating. I have like a bakery box here that also works well. It's not quite as thick, so it doesn't look as much like a miniature board, which is why I like why I save these thicker pieces. They're just nicer that way because they have more dimension, so they mimic real lumber better. Now, if you only have corrugated, and this is not even, I'm trying to see, this is probably more like the thickness of a shipping box, so you can see it's not ideal to use. Sorry, because I'm here, let me just tip my camera back. It's not ideal to use because it has the layers instead of being all pressed, and I cannot get my camera to focus on the right thing there. Instead of looking like a board, it will look like corrugated cardboard, which is layers of paper, and that is not a huge deal. If that's what you have, that's what you have, and you can use a piece of it. Just cut a piece like this if you want to, and then you can close it in on the sides with another piece, and you won't see so much of that kind of end. It's not end grain like wood, but you won't see so much of that. And so you can do it with corrugated, but the fiberboard looks a little better. You could also just cover a piece of corrugated with some pieces of thicker paper if you have it, to make it look like boards. But so this is the size of cart that I'm going to make for this little pony or horse. And so I just took a piece and cut it to the size that I wanted, and then I'm just going to put two small pieces on the underside that are just about the width of that larger piece of cardboard. You can use any kind of glue. I tend to use hot glue because I can move so fast and I don't have to wait for it to dry and be set up. One thing that does happen with some pressed fiberboard is that you will find that you glue it and a layer of it will split off, and so then you'll be left with about half of your fiberboard. That is kind of a bummer when that happens, but I typically, if that does happen, this one is not splitting, sometimes they do. When that happens, I just glue it back on with a little, usually liquid craft glue. I can't explain, well, it's just a difference in how the cardboard is manufactured, I'm sure, and how much glue they've used or whatever. However they've made it, it just is in layers, which is why it's called pressed board, I think. Okay, so that's the underside, and here is where I usually just glue a bit of wire, and then you could put on buttons for, like, if you have a button collection. This little cart has button wheels, and you can see I truly just glue. This one I didn't even bother making the little underside boards. Sometimes I'm trying to think. Oh, the reason in fact, I didn't even glue this on the underside. I glued the buttons to the side, and just because this was thicker up here, I could just trust that to hold it. Sometimes I put a little strip of fabric over this. I just put glue here and then a skinny little strip of fabric to cover that wire, and that's how. So there's all kinds of ways. You could also probably put your wire just onto your piece of cardboard, and of course you could put paper over it. You could put another piece of cardboard over it and glue. You could do the fabric thing, so don't stress it. And then another option is this, what's it called, the spoke, the wheel spoke, I think, could be out of a toothpick if you wanted. So anyway, then to make it look more like boards up here, I just like to cut out smaller, skinnier, thinner strips of more of the fiberboard and glue them on. But it's not a necessary step. If you don't mind how this looks, you can just go with that. So that's really all there is to a little cart. Then all you need to do is If you want to make it a pull cart, you can put a little loop of wire here, or this one, like he has a little, well, what do you call that? I'm so bad with horse things. It's not the bridle, it's a bit, I guess, which is really probably not nice and not comfortable for a poor little pony, but that's what I did instead of making the full bridle. So that's how he would be pulled, but I did think I would have it pulled down here initially, so I had put in wire and I just trimmed it off. Anyway, I did just want to chat a little bit with you about kind of what I think we will do this year together, because obviously I never get to everything that I would like to in a year, and we have not yet done a lot of accessories for mice. Now, pull toys could definitely be a little accessory, but I'm not doing the full tutorial. This is more just for the cart part. But I kind of am just, like I said, if I keep that part of the video in, I'm off to a slow start this year. I know we're only a week in, but I can just feel that I'm grinding a little bit, and I'm just feeling like I don't want to commit very much. Like I'm not sure what direction I want to take, and I don't want to get overcommitted right away or take on too much, because that is how I always feel after the holidays, is that things really got too crazy, and I always want my year to be a little more peaceful than the last one felt. So that's definitely where I am right now. I'm kind of in that weird space where we've really had winter come. Finally, it hadn't been a very serious winter yet, and so we're getting our really bitter cold weather like we typically do several times in the winter, and so that stresses me out for the animals, because there's only so much you can do with outdoor animals to really protect them and make them comfortable. And so I get super out of sorts when this happens, when it's like this, and I know that they are really not. I always say we try to make them as comfortable as we can, but sometimes that doesn't really mean they're very comfortable. It really just means they are riding it out. So I get out of sorts about that, but I'm also just kind of in that weird, I cut that one too short. Yes, I know, guys, that I could just cut one piece, one large piece, and then just cut it into strips. I do know that. This is just how I make. I don't, and I'm especially scattered as I make and talk, because I'm just not thinking the way I would when I'm not talking and recording. So please give me a little bit of grace for that, because my brain is not totally on what I'm doing. But anyway, I'm in that weird place of January where it's like I really just want to repaint every room in my house and not figure out what to do as I'd like to mess around and just make gifts like I'm doing, but I don't want to worry about what's my theme gonna be this year, or what am I gonna focus on. And I'm kind of like all over the place. Like the other morning I got up and I think I had forgotten to rinse the conditioner out of my hair the night before. And for whatever reason, it just felt kooky. It was so tangly and ratty and just a mess. And I was so frustrated. I know this sounds... Anyway, I was getting very frustrated because I couldn't just even run my fingers through my hair. So I was trying to work through some of the knots, and then I was just I went to the bathroom and got my scissors, and instead of working through the knots, I just started cutting chunks of my hair out. So that's kind of where I am for this new year, is in that sort of frame of mind where it's I can get a little... I think it's what happens when people are snowed in and trapped, and they kind of lose their minds. And I'm not in that actual situation, but it's kind of a little bit like that. Don't worry, I'm not a danger to myself or others, but I am not probably quite as stable as I will be once we get through February, and I know that we won't have, so I'm just kind of making sure these are spaced the way I want. And that's how it will look from the side. So this will be a very, very simple cart, and I don't know if I will use buttons. I might do one cart with button wheels and the other with just, so to do the cardboard wheels, I just use, and it does look the best if you have a little bit thicker fiberboard, but I've definitely done just 2 layers of the thinner fiberboard. I just glue 2 pieces together and then cut out the circle, and that looks fine too. And then I use my handy darning needle to punch a hole. And those of you who want to, I do get lots of suggestions for how I could get more perfect results for my mix. Like, if you made a pattern, then this would turn out more accurately. And I have to tell you, I totally agree with you that a pattern would help me make a more perfect whatever it is. And then I'll just try to explain to those of you who are fine with using patterns and good at it and good at making patterns and sticking to them. For me, using a pattern is like asking me to do something painful. And I know that sounds like I'm a big baby, but that's just truly how it feels for me. When I make, I like to have tons of freedom, and I don't like to have to be exact. And I really have always hated patterns. Like, I was terrible in 4-H. I did not want to follow that. And I know that that makes things more complicated. Those are just, I think that way, where we just want to do it ourselves and not have to follow a certain thing. And that's how I'm with a lot of the more creative things. And I apologize, and I understand that that means that some of you will not enjoy creating with me or watching me. And I can't be any different, because it would take all the joy out of it for me. But what I'm saying is, I understand that people are made up differently. And so for lots of you, using a pattern will make it more enjoyable for you. And if that's the case, then definitely do it that way. You don't you don't have to be sloppy just because I am. For whatever reason, I think that that's more enjoyable, but I know that lots of you would just like to have better, more perfect results. And as long as that's not, the perfection of it isn't hanging you up and preventing you from doing it at all, then I say go for it and just do it the more perfect way. So those are my wheels. See, I don't even measure them against each other. And so if one of them ends up a little bit high, I will truly just like trim it off until they sit fairly level. But I just do it this imprecise way, because that's how I enjoy my making process. And if I make myself measure and trace, I just don't enjoy it as much. But I do understand, and I appreciate when some of you are like, I'm just trying to make this easier for you. And I do get where you're coming from. And I agree that a lot of times that would be easier. But for whatever reason, that also takes the fun out of it for me. So I hope that kind of makes sense to some of you. And if you just can't understand where I'm coming from, probably you also will just not be enjoying this channel very much, honestly. So if you at least understand what I mean, then we can probably keep making together, even if we do it quite differently. And really the point of these is always not to just show you an exact way to do something, or to say like, oh, like you could never figure out how to do this, or I've come up with this brand new idea. These are not, I don't think, new ideas, and it's not things that most people couldn't come up with. It's just that I think that making with someone or seeing what someone is making can sometimes just be a catalyst for you to get making and have your own ideas. And so that is really truly why I share. It's not so that you can make something just like me. It's just so that you will be inspired to make yourself. So anyway, I will attach these, and I'll come back and we'll do maybe the painting together, and I'll show you however I figure out how to put the horse on. I can't even remember what I did with the first one. That may be why I changed the cart. I might have put little holes in. I don't know. I'm gonna have to think for a second without talking and decide what I want to do to attach them, because I might need to put the feet down into a cardboard layer. So this one may get another cart made for it, and this may be for the cotton one. I don't know. We'll see. You'll probably be frustrated I didn't show this, but sometimes I just want to do something not on camera, so I painted the little pony, and I think this will probably be the one I send to my friend, but we'll see how this one turns out. I think it's going to be hard to add the spots and have it work with the crackle coat, so we'll see, but I do think this one will be neat when it's done too. And I won't make the cart for this one probably, or at least I won't talk you through it, but I may show a few parts of it on camera if I make it significantly different from this one. So I just have some uncoated wire that I'm going to attach here using my little fabric trick. So I'm just going to put them there, and I think I'll use craft glue this time. Hot glue would work fine, would work great, but I might as well do the craft glue and exercise my patience a little bit, since I've got other things to work on while that dries. So I'm just going to set that there and do the other side, and then I'll put the strips of fabric on and let it dry, and then I'll show you how I just bend the ends of the wire and kind of connect it. You could try to, since there's not a lot of surface area on the side of this kind of a cart, it's hard to actually glue the wheels to it, so they will spin, which I think is kind of cute, and they'll stay on because I'm just going to loop the wire around and make a little circle to hold them, so they won't be just secure against the sides of the cart. They will have a little bit of room to move and to spin. Not that it's it's not functional in the way a real cart would be, because my spokes, I'm still not sure if it's an axle. I think the axle is this thing that comes off a cart there, so I think these are spokes, but again, I'm not positive I'm using that term correctly, but that's what I've been saying, I think. And then I'm just taking my little pieces of fabric. You could use paper or more cardboard, and pushing that down, and then I'll just let it dry, and then we will bend the wire. I probably need a little bit more glue on this one, or I should have had a smaller piece of fabric, but then we'll bend the wire and get those wheels kind of tighter, and so that they won't just fall off. And I'm gonna let that sit, and then we'll paint it, which is always fun. I think what I'll show you is just how to do some little folky flower pattern of some sort, because that's always cute on a little cart or wagon, if you wanted to call it, or a wagon, or if you wanted to build up the sides so that it was more of a wagon. But I'm gonna let that dry, and we'll come back for painting, and I might show you how the crackle kind of appears as you do the top coat. So I showed you, I think I'm going to show you in hyperlapse or whatever sped up, how I put this little wagon together. And I think this is kind of clever to just, if you've got corrugated, to just use one of those ridges and just slide your wire through that, and then it can spin, but once you kind of close in your wire, the wheel won't fall off. Now, if you only have corrugated cardboard and you want to make wheels, one thing I've done in the past too, and this is nice too if you want your wheel to be a little thicker than what the pressed fiberboard is. And this corrugated I used isn't the best example because it's not as thick as a regular packing box. This is probably more of a packaging box, and this would be like a shipping box, so it would be thicker, but you could cut a wheel out of either one of these thicknesses depending on what you want. And then I took a piece of just jute twine, but you could use like kitchen twine or any sort of fiber that you think you can paint over. And this is split, so if you have a thicker piece of cardboard, you can just leave it thicker. And anyway, I will just glue down. I'm sorry, Nutty's got a very loud program on. I hope it's not picking up. Anyway, you can cover over that side of the corrugated that you can see the layers in, and with a piece of string, and then just go ahead and paint it whatever color you want, and I think that works okay. So all you have to do now is, if you have a needle nose plier and you want to work with it, you can. Making sure this is actually dry. You just make a little loop here with your wire, and you can either trim it off or just twist it a little farther, and then that's all I do. If you wanted it to look a little more polished, I don't know, you could probably make a little cardboard circle to cover over that. I don't really worry about it. It looks fine, primitive, folky, so I don't worry about it too much. Oops, my wheels are falling off, literally, or the wheels are coming off, is that what you say? So that's all there is to it, and I think it's not, my glue isn't quite dry, so I don't want to be too heavy-handed here. But then the wheels themselves can spin a little bit this way, which I think is kind of cute, to have a little bit of actual motion with your cart, even though they're not functioning the way a real wheel would. Now, if you want them tighter, you'll have to twist your wire a little tighter, maybe use your needle nose plier to do that, but I'm not fussy about how tight they are. I kind of like the wobbly look, as long as they're not so wobbly that they're like splayed way out. And again, you could probably just put a dab of glue here, and I think it would stay unless you were fairly rough with your cart. So I'll attach the others and then we'll paint. Okay, just had a thought, and I think I actually just did this fairly recently. I don't know how I forgot it so quickly, but that's how my brain is like a sieve. You can also use a little bead to secure onto the wire. You can just glue it on, and that will keep the wheel from coming off, or you can do the same thing with a toothpick, depending on how big your little bead is that you have to use. So a bead will work and might look cuter if you want it to look a little less primitive. I would say the wire is kind of pretty folky, but I don't know, I just kind of like wire. Maybe I'll do a bead on the other, and then you can see I do have a lot of my nice buttons out, but I'm not finding a great, and you would think I have like 3 jars of buttons in a tin. You would think with that many buttons I could find 4 that kind of go together well enough that I would use them, but for whatever reason today they're not. I'm not sure that they're striking I think they're nice buttons. I just am not sure that I want to use them today. I don't know. We'll see what I end up with on that part, but that's not important. I don't need to waste your time. I was going to show you this cute little one, which makes a great looking wheel, but I only can find one of those. And I apologize. My hands look very rough. It's the cold, and I do have glue on them, but they're very cracked from doing chores when it's -15. So sorry about that. Okay, let's see what happens here with our crackle coat. You have to be quick, and you just have to go with whatever you get on there, because if you go over it more than a couple times, you ruin the crackle look. So you can see it's already starting to crackle a bit, and so that's what I get. I might have liked a little thicker coat, but I have found that it doesn't crack as well for me when I know this isn't super in focus because I'm really have to focus more on the little figure this time than watching my camera. Okay, I think I've mostly got a coating there, and do a bit on the legs, which is tricky. Okay, we'll see how that comes out. It's kind of a finicky product, or at least I think it is, but you can see that's kind of the finish that it's going to give me. And like I said, maybe in the future I will figure out a way to have something and give it a similar look without the glazing, or what is it called? Crackle medium agent. I have no idea what it is really, but it would be nice to figure out how to do it without that kind of unnatural product. I don't know, maybe you could figure out with like some of the chalk paints, but I would assume that's sort of a similar composition to those. So I don't know. I think it's going to be cute once I paint on details, and I need to decide what to do with the mane. I think I will paint it with ink again, but not positive yet. Now for this cart, I kind of sometimes what I like to do is I will brush on just lightly some acrylic paint, not fully coat it, and then I will take like some India ink, like sepia color, and go over that, and it makes it look kind of like aged weathered wood, where most of the paint has come off and the wood has just aged, or around it and darkened. I think I'll just show you though, since I don't know if a lot of you will have the India ink. I think you could do sort of a similar thing and then paint over that acrylic with some brownish black watercolor. But anyway, I think I will show you though kind of a more straightforward way to paint with acrylic paint and then do a folky design on it. But I do want it, because this cart is going with this one, I want the cart to look as aged as the horse. So let's don't put the cart before the horse. I might be putting the cart before the horse in terms of importance for this video, but anyway, we'll see what I can do here with what I think you will have to work with. I'm thinking about a red cart. Let me decide and then we'll come back. Okay, I'm just going with the red. And you could do a really thick coat, but I'm just doing something thin. I'm going to try with a little watercolor over the top of it, and I just kind of rough it around with my fingers. the wheels, we'll see. I'm going to paint a pattern on them, or that's what I usually do. Maybe I should have. I'm not okay. I was gonna try to leave the wire, but yeah, not worth it in my opinion. And you can kind of wipe the paint off it afterwards. Now, I'm not even bothering with the sides of the wheels at this point, and I will brush a little on the sides, but I'm not being particular about covering every bit because I want the paint to look like it has worn off a little bit. And I'm going to go over with watercolor to make the cardboard a little more aged looking. Now on the underside, you can do whatever you want. You can fully coat it. You could do a contrasting color. Sometimes I have had a pretty little piece of fabric that I've just done over the whole bottom of a cart, just, you know, to use up something cute. So that's an option too. And I would say adding a little bit of this acrylic paint helps to get your fabrics, if you just used it there. But I've got that changing light again stuck down a little better. So I'm not being too particular, just giving it some color. And then there's the top. Now you just may want to do a nice thick bright coat. That's fine. I think that would look really nice too. Red is always a fun color for a cart. I don't think you can go wrong. I thought for a second about it because I wasn't sure what color I might paint the flowers, but when I do a red cart, then I can always do, you know, blue and yellow and pink flowers usually show up pretty well against red. Okay. All right, now I will go get my watercolors and we'll see what sort of a look we can get by adding a bit of that. And like I said, you could use ink or something else. You could probably even use like some felt tip pens, maybe to age a little bit on the sides, or you could use, if you have some nice dark coffee, that would work pretty well too. I'm just going to see what I can do to age this a little bit and make it more interesting and grungy looking. So I'm going to put on some of my favorite color. This is that Jasper Stardust watercolor that a lot of you have asked about, and I will link it. It's very fun, and I ordered myself 3 because I don't have good pink colors right now, and I ordered 3 for my Christmas present and it got lost. It's been saying it's at St. Louis since December 19th, and I don't think it's gonna show up. That's quite a long time to not move, so I don't know, but I'm gonna just reorder, I think, because I really want some other colors. Boy, that's needs a little covering on that back wheel probably, although there's not a lot of opportunities to see that unless you just flip your card over. But let's cover that a little bit because that even I am bothered by that. Okay. So there is how it kind of looks with just a little bit of a color added, and I think I'm just gonna add now a little bit of brown and stop with that. You could do more, and definitely I love to use the India ink because it has a shiny stickiness to it. India ink does, and so it gives you this kind of look of a varnish or lacquer or whatever they would have used. I'm just gonna do a bit of this on the wheels because they would be quite dingy and dirty. Sorry if I'm that's probably all I'm gonna do. Let it dry and we will paint some little flower motifs. Is that what you say? Put some little flowers on here and a little pole for the pole cart. And we'll be done. I'll show you how I'm going to, I have ideas for how I'm going to attach the horses. Definitely though, if you have bright ideas for better ways to do that. The paper clay one is much heavier, and so that needs to be on in a better, now an option for the, I want to make sure I don't get red on this. An option for the spun cotton one is just not even to worry too much about the feet. We can still poke a hole here and attach it to our cart with a wire, which would be very secure. With the paper clay one, I've done that in the past when I was thinking about it. I did make them with holes in the little figure, whatever it would be, and that way I have the insurance policy of not just the feet, but there's actually a way that it's very, very secure to the cart. But I don't have that this time, so we're going to have to put our thinking caps on. But I know what I'm going to try, and we'll see how it works with the paper clay one and the added weight of it. The spun cotton one is so light that I know that that's going to work. My idea is going to work fine for that one. But anyway, so here's where we are. I think it looks cute. And I'll come back like with this one done and the details painted on this, and we'll paint our flowers on and we'll attach our little ponies. So I'm gonna lose light pretty fast, so let's just do some quick flowers on our cart. Just something, the simplest child's version of a flower is all that I bother with because it's small. It's kind of it's not like the most visible place. There's the cracks between the little boards, so you don't want to do, well, I don't have a lot of success doing anything very complicated because it just ends up being not recognizable as anything. You could do maybe a little bluebird, or I don't know what, I mean hearts, I guess, just a heart and some of those little, that would be cute. Just those little squiggly lines, whatever the word is for that. And I've been saying spokes for the little, but I'm thinking, oh, bicycle spoke is like just the metal pieces between, I don't know that I'm using the right word for that, but of course I continue to forget to look it up as I'm going between takes here. So and I don't want them to be very, very bright because the whole thing is supposed to look weathered and faded, but I mean you don't want them to completely blend in if you're going to go to the trouble to paint them. So I don't know, you might want to, I think a mustard color might stand out a little more, or you could do white, and I do think that a heart would be cute here and very simple. I'm thinking I might do black for the little accents or leaves. I don't know if that's a good choice or not, but I don't really want the brightness of the white, and so this is what I'm doing this time. And I don't stress too much about it because it's kind of about the overall presentation of your cart. It's not each individual little detail. Should I just leave? I think I'll just I'm not good at actually the person that this is for, actually this one that I'm making is not, I think I'm gonna give her this spun cotton one, and I'm talking about it because I assume that by the time I have this up and edited, it will be already in her possession. And also I don't think she usually watches my videos, which is fine. I don't expect my friends to watch these, but she is a wonderful artist, and particularly she's well versed and experienced and has wonderful skills and techniques of folk painting, and she teaches classes. So she it's sad that I will be sending her, but it's I'm sending her the pony and the cart. I'm not sending it to her because of my folk painting flower motif skills. She would have known exactly what to put here and how to do it, but the point is that she didn't. I'm making it as a gift to her, and she's not gonna worry too much about how I didn't have great ideas for my flowers. And then I like to do a simple flower on the wheels. I'll probably just do 2 for you because I'm sure that this is already quite long. So that's all I do, but it just adds that little cute detail, which is much more visible as you're looking at your card or displaying your pull toy than what the top design is. And I'm sure that whatever I do on hers when I'm not recording, I'm not sure, but I feel fairly confident that it will turn out a little better than this one, but I don't think there's anything wrong with it. It just looks old. I'll do that on the wheels on the other side, and then I'll kind of assemble them up and come back. I'm sure it will be dark by the time I get them finished up, so I'll just explain how I'm going to attach this little horsey. Now this one, I'm gonna have to improvise a lot, and I don't actually know if what I'm gonna try is gonna work. But this one I'm going to just take some fabric, which is actually what I did for this one as I was looking back and remembering. I think I put a bit of cardboard or paper around for feet, and then I took a little piece of fabric. Sorry about all the ink under my nails. I took a little piece of fabric and I glued that fabric to the foot and then to the cart. And I also put glue on the bottom side of each foot. And the reason I added paper or cardboard is just to add some surface area to the feet. So that is what I'm planning to do to attach this little horsey. Another thing that I thought of, and now I can't find my little piece of, oh, here it is. You could put your feet into a piece of cardboard, make little holes for them, and then glue that whole thing down. Of course, you have to paint it to match, so I would have done that earlier if that's what I thought I was going to do. I'm going to try to do something else, but I will resort to that if I have to. So I'll come back and show you how they end up and how I decide to do their poles, whether I do just wire and string down here or if I make a little harness and bridle. But that's the basic idea, and like I said, I plan to do more of a complete pull toy tutorial where I take you through how to make the shape of the animal too in a future make along. Here's how I finished them up, or finished them off, however you like to say that. This one I decided, this is the spun cotton one, and I decided I would attach it with a wire because that just seemed the simplest way to me and the way that would be the most secure long term. And then of course, I did the beads for these wheels to hold them on, and they're just put through the corrugated cardboard, so they kind of, I don't know, I had never done that before, so I like that technique. I think that's fairly clever, or more clever than what I have done sometimes. So I think it turned out really cute. I gave it a little, I think this is called just like a rope halter. It's not a true one because they have a little thing that comes back here, and then you would attach a lead to it, but I made kind of a version of it that can just slide off if you don't want to have kind of the reins back here, and it pulls right here, so I attached wire into the chest, and that's how I painted the cart, just It's a little simple heart and some flowers and some black accents. So I'm very happy with that one, and that's the one that will go to my friend who had a business called the Spotted Pony many years ago. So she definitely needed a spotted pony. And then this is our paper clay one, and I really love the kooky. This is jute twine, and it's got a lot of craft glue in it, and then the ink, and it's very stiff and bristly. I think it's cute. And then I just did a little fabric kind of saddle. This one is made out of my quilt batting, cotton quilt batting. And we did the cart together, and these don't have the beads. They're just, the wires just twisted there. And so how I attached the little pony is that I just took tiny scraps of some cotton fabric and twisted it around each foot and attached that with some craft glue. And then I put giant globes of craft glue, the clear Aleene's tacky glue underneath those feet, and I think it's fairly secure. I would not say that you should test its just be gentle with it if that's how you would end up securing something. I wouldn't test it, and you may have to reattach it at some point if it falls or is knocked over, but it seems fairly well attached at this point, and we'll just see how that happens. But this one is not necessarily going to anyone, so I'm not as concerned about it. This was my original. This was the first one I made, and I definitely, well, I always like to keep my original, just because then I have kind of some sort of a document of where I started with something. And sometimes I grow to like those original ones better than the ones I make after, and sometimes I don't, but I usually keep an original of something when it's kind of the first thing of that kind that I've made. So anyway, I think these are so much fun, and the carts can be put to all kinds of uses, and you can definitely make a taller cart, or but it's just a great way to make something cute out of your old trash, and it doesn't take a ton of time, and then you can go all different directions with it. So I hope that was kind of fun and a way to just get your wheels turning for this new year, so I hope you'll feel encouraged or inspired to make something. You don't need to have a bunch of fancy stuff. If you have a little bit of cardboard saved and some paint or markers, you could even probably color cardboard with markers, but also colored pencils and pastels and things like that. So let yourself kind of craft or create like a child again, and don't feel like you need to have a big arsenal of fancy supplies. Just be whimsical and see what happens. Toothpicks and foil and cotton balls and cardboard and some string or whatever, just even bits of saved twine from something that was tied with it and packaging or whatever. You really don't have to have all the fancy stuff. We can go back to the basics, but if you let your mind and imagination kind of be free, you might be surprised what happens. So I do wish you a very imaginative and playful and also peaceful 2025, and I thank you all so much. If you've been with me for a while, I thank you for being here and supporting me. If you're new here, welcome, and we'll be doing more things like this, but also probably some things very unlike this. I don't want to be boxed in here. We are just here to have fun and be creative and support one another. So thank you so much, because you all do that for me, and I wish you happy making.